But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a proper football man of the truest sense. Mick BAZ Rathbone grew up on a Birmingham council estate, dreaming of pulling on the royal blue shirt of his boyhood club. He did exactly that at 16, lived the lower league roller coaster as a player, somehow survived the booze, the nerves and the shattered ankle, then reinvented himself as one of the most respected physios in the English game. Over 35 years, he taped ankles and calmed superstars at clubs from Halifax to Everton, patched up Wayne Rooney, survived Duncan Ferguson, found zen on a volcanic Caribbean island, and once managed to freeze on the ball in front of his hero Trevor Francis, something he's never quite lived down. But it's his trilogy, The Smell of Football, that turned him into a cult hero off the pitch. 3 brutally honest, laugh out loud books that have been called the funniest and most human football memoirs ever written. The brand new Volume 3 is the closest any of us will ever get to being a fly on the wall, on the treatment room wall for an entire season. He's a brummie, a physio, a writer, a survivor, and one of the most self-deprecating voices you'll ever hear talk about our game. Give it up for Baz. And not to forget, of course, he is dad of our very own Wrexham player of the season, Ollie Rathbone. Welcome. Thank you very much for talking to us this evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What an introduction!
What an intro!
Thank you. Gosh, it brought back some memories, mate. It brought back some good memories and some bad memories, and yeah, I've been lucky. I've been in football, Paddy, 50 years, mate, half a century. And when I left school in the summer of 75, if somebody said to me, you'd still be working in the summer stroke winter of 25, I'd have took that. So my cup runneth over. I'm very, very lucky. And I've just done 6 weeks at Harrogate, my 21st club. They were without a physio, so I stepped in short term to help them. I loved every minute of it.
Good. That took me ages. Me and my friend Grok took me hours and hours to put that together. So was it all correct, generally speaking?
It was really good. You didn't need to go to that much trouble, mate. I've not got airs and graces. That's not me, mate. I'm just me.
I only wish Grok would say nice things like that about me if I asked him to. I'm jealous. Okay, so
But if it works for you, mate, if it works for you.
Right. First question. Let's jump into it. You have obviously played in lots of different teams. You've been physio for lots of different teams. Your boyhood club is Birmingham. So first up, which team do you actually support?
The answer is none. But I guess if
Okay.
you had to press me, it would be the first club that you love. So inside me, I'm a Birmingham City fan. I didn't enjoy my time there. Things didn't go well. That's all about the first book. Everybody's read it will know that. It kind of made me fall out of love with that club, but that club is my club and will always be my club. Like maybe if I had a parent who I hated, it would still be my parent. So Birmingham City, Birmingham's my club. Obviously, when Oliver scored against them, I weren't too bothered about them then. But yeah, Brom. I was born very close to Birmingham Airport. Their training ground was a literal walk from my house. I had all the pictures of the players on my wall: the Trevor Francis, Howard Kendalls, Kenny Burns, the Peter Withy. They had some great players in those days. So Birmingham City's my club.
Okay. Do you get to go and watch them often? Where do you live these days, or who are you close to?
Mate, no, I only go to games when I'm working. So obviously go and watch Wrexham. I've watched Wrexham all last season. Before that, I watched Oliver at Rotherham a lot. I wouldn't just go and take in a game now.
Yeah.
I've played 450 games. I've physioed well over 1,200. For me, the game's a work and that. I would not. Somebody said to me yesterday, are you going down to watch Preston and Blackburn, 2-year-old teams and that? I just wouldn't do that. I think when you've worked in it and you're in it all the
Yeah.
time, I don't want to say that the novelty of going to watch a game and that. I've not been to a Wrexham game because Oliver's been injured. So when he's back, I will go, and it's as simple as that. It's not that you don't love the game, but I think you've been exposed to so many games. I
Yeah, of
watch a lot
course.
of games on telly, obviously, but no, I wouldn't dream of going to watch Birmingham City play, and that's not meaning to denigrate them. It's just where I am in my life, I guess.
Yeah. So I suppose just quickly then, what do you think of the new owners of Birmingham and their situation?
Fantastic and really interesting, Paddy, because
Mm.
there is that kind of Wrexham Birmingham rivalry now. And obviously, last season was great for Wrexham, but I kind of enjoyed Birmingham's achievements at the same time, parallel with Wrexham. So it was quite a unique situation. I've been to St Andrews to see Oliver play for Rotherham and get a good result. I've been to St Andrews to see the Wrexham game. I've been to Wrexham to watch him play Birmingham. So my brushes with Birmingham City over the last 30, 40 years, I played against him for Blackburn, I played against him for Preston. All my dealings with Blackburn since I left in 79 have all been business, and I've been always on the other side. So it's quite a strange kind of love-hate relationship, dare I say.
Yeah, so, some people don't kind of revel in the whole Birmingham Wrexham thing, but I enjoy it personally. And one of the guys who
Yeah.
actually helps us out with videos on the local pundit is a Birmingham fan, John. So we have a bit of a laugh on the channel about Birmingham and Wrexham.
Well, it's the American thing, isn't it?
Hmm.
You know, that's the big connection, I guess. If Birmingham would have been owned by maybe Chinese people, then it wouldn't have been the same. But it's
Yeah,
the kind of Hollywood, the Tom Brady, the Americans. So it is that makes the connection. And both teams obviously having really good seasons last year as well. So that's the connection, I guess, more so than any historic connection between Wrexham and Birmingham City.
yeah. Some people hate me saying this, but the Hollywood Derby, as some people like to call it, in
It
good
sounds
fun. But
great.
some traditionals won't like that.
Yeah, but mate, if you'd have said that 5 years ago, when Wrexham were in the National League and Birmingham were doing okay, but going really nowhere in the Championship, if you'd have said like in 5 years' time, these clubs will be absolutely on the up, investment, new
Hmm.
stadium, new stands, new players, exciting times, promotions, we wouldn't have minded it being called the Hollywood Derby then.
Yeah, of course not.
It's for me. I only see the good. You only see the good
Yeah.
stuff in it, like.
In the news this week, did you see the new stadium that they've released images of or renderings?
Yeah, it looks like if you go to London, Battersea Power
Yes.
Station's been
Yeah.
all done up now. It looks a bit like that. I like it. I like the industrial heritage kind of thing going on. It holds 62,000. You wonder where they're going to get the extra 40,000 fans from. But
Yeah.
having said that, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will
They will
come.
come.
And
Yeah.
I know that in Birmingham, when I started in the 70s, we had some big crowds, high 30s, 40s. So I think a city like Birmingham with a brand new stadium and the impetus that goes with it, I think you'll be surprised. And when I was a physio at Everton, we'd have Goodison held 40,000 and about 10, 40,000 and 10. And that was full. Sometimes maybe, I don't know, Fulham at home, there'd be 39,999 on. But now Everton are getting 52 to the new stadium, and
Hmm.
that'll be going through now for the next couple of years. So no doubt about it, when there is momentum and when people see that money's been invested in the club, people will say, yeah, we'll get involved with that and we'll come and support them. Because there's no doubt about it, Birmingham's got over 1 million people now. And in that city, there's a lot of Birmingham City fans lying dormant who've probably never been back since, I don't know, Trevor Francis stopped playing for them. So the support is there in the city.
Yeah. I definitely think Birmingham and Wrexham will both make it to the Prem. The ultimate question, I suppose, is can they stay there? That's kind of my thing now. How difficult is it to break in and stay? That'll be tough.
The history shows you that the teams that come up keep going down, don't
Yeah.
they? So that's how
Yeah.
hard it is. But as Lord Tennyson said, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have won at
Absolutely.
all.
Yeah.
So let's get there,
Let's get there
Paddy,
and
and
see
then
where we
we'll
go
worry
from there.
about staying there.
Yeah.
I know last season the narrative was, wow, this is maybe League One's a step too far,
Mm.
consolidation, and all of a sudden promotion.
Every
And this
season.
season started quite slowly, and all of a sudden now, wow, the team's starting to click. So you never know. So I just, in football terms, and in my life in general, just live for today and let's
Yeah.
see what tomorrow brings tomorrow. So I don't think too far. I'm 67, mate. You don't think too far ahead. Mate, you can't afford to think too far ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I ended up in hospital myself this year, so that kind of put some things in my mind as well to not go too crazy. But all is good
Absolutely.
now, so no worries there.
I'm
Um,
glad to hear that, mate.
so, a first question here. We do have a lot of international fans kind of following our channel, and Wrexham locals as well from the UK. And my first question was going to be kind of the gaps between the different leagues, conditioning gaps and training equipment and physio equipment, stuff like that. Would you be able to just give a quick rundown of kind of the top four leagues and what you might expect to be available between each
Oh,
level?
it varies because sometimes there's big teams in
Yeah.
League Two. Now, a typical Premier League club, when I've worked a lot, obviously Everton, Man U for a couple of years, they will have a swimming pool. I think Man U have their own MR scanner. They have loads of staff. They have a fantastic, almost Michelin-starred cafeteria is the wrong word, a restaurant, I guess.
Restaurant, yeah.
A change of kit at lunchtime for afternoon training sessions. Then you'll go down probably to a typical championship club that will have fewer staff, probably not a swimming pool. A cafeteria, not a restaurant, and then you drop right down. I've just done 6 weeks at Harrogate, loved every minute of it. As I've worked at a locum over the last 3 years, it's mainly in League Two where clubs haven't got physios
Mm,
for a month or 6 weeks till a new guy starts. Typically, they will have more modest stuff. There won't be a swimming pool. There might be a couple of beds in the medical room. There's usually the medical team at that level would be two physios. So that's what I've always worked, just me and another lad in League Two level at the clubs I worked at, the training grounds, I've worked at Tranmere, I did a bit of time at Oldham. I went up to Blackpool in League One. I've done Accrington. I've been to Salford a couple of times. I've been everywhere, mate. And they all have a pretty similar level. Accrington Stanley had a fabulous pitch, nice dressing rooms. The training ground was a kilometre away. There's no chef there, obviously, but there's microwave meals after training. The training pitch was good. There's a little gym there. So maybe 20, 30. Well, when I played for Blackburn in the 80s in a very good championship team, we trained in the big local park. We got down early. We all had a turn scraping the dog poo off the pitches. The manager would come down and get these white tapes that you unrolled on a roll for the touch lines. It literally was jumpers for goalposts. And that was a top six League Two, now the Championship club. So everybody's facilities have moved on. Everybody's.
mm.
So as I said, I've just done 6 weeks at Harrogate. They train just outside Leeds. They have a nice training pitch, AstroTurf pitch next to it. There's no gym there, but there's gym equipment for the corridor. There's a nice little cafeteria. There's a couple of physios. So even the teams at the lower end, with respect, have got decent facilities now. The days of changing in your car, or when I played for Blackburn, driving in my car to Ewood, getting changed and getting back in my car and driving to the country park, those days are gone with most clubs. So there's been a definite moving upwards of all the standards in every division.
Yeah. With Wrexham, it's clear you can see it through the documentary how things are improving since Robin Ryan came in. The very first season, you see their training area with a couple of bikes and treadmills, and now that area is the space for the physios and massage only, and they have built
Yeah,
on new areas for exercise. So
yeah.
that's a start for them.
But that's typical of nearly every club.
Mm,
But it's nice from a fan, Wrexham fan's point of view, and the documentaries to be able to see that grow all the time. It's measurable, it's visible. Obviously, at clubs that aren't on the telly, it's less visible. But I would have to say, over the last 2 or 3 years, when I've worked predominantly in League Two, because that's where these hiatuses, where there's no physio for a month at a time or 6 weeks, and they're kind of desperate for bars, and that phone call comes. At all levels now, there's been a big upgrading of all the facilities. There's no doubt about it.
yeah. Are you familiar with Collier's Green?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, so that's our training center at the moment. And there, I'm not sure how true this is, but what has kind of been spoken about is that we have use of the general pitches and stuff, but we don't have use of all the facilities there. So there's some issues with players coming back to the club to change and shower and stuff like that. And recently, it did come out that permission has been granted slash sought, I think, finished for some new spaces that Wrexham will put in at Collier's ground. So improving what's available to them. And they have gone on record saying that the next thing after the COP is a very big kind of top end training center, but that's going to take quite a few years. So that kind of leads into my next question here, which is the modern fancy training centers. Do you have any insight from speaking with players as to how much importance players will place on having the best facilities when they are considering transfers and moving between clubs?
I think it's important to be able to show your new signing round a fantastic training ground. When I first, but what you're saying, point number one, Paddy, they take years to get together, these new training
Mm,
grounds. When I went to Everton in 2002, on my first day, there was this narrative, Baz, quick, can you quickly design how you want the medical room, the gymnasium, the swimming pool for the new training ground at Finch Farm? We're going there soon. That soon was 4 years, I think, down the line.
mm,
So things don't happen overnight.
yeah.
You can't suddenly build a training ground. Players at the higher level expect more. Players at the lower level expect a little bit more now. When I was a player, if I went to the physio and asked for a massage, which I wouldn't do anyway, he would tell me to off.
Yeah.
There was no such thing. And now at League Two clubs, we have a lot more equipment, a lot more variety of equipment. Whether you think it does any good or works, that's a different kettle of fish.
Mm,
But players now at League Two expect a minimum level of stuff, and they expect good training pitches, and they expect good training kit. They expect there to be a gym there, a fitness coach. They expect to be wearing GPS satellite things in their shirts, and all their load is tracks and stuff like that. So the expectations are getting higher and higher. I've been to a lot of the top training grounds like Tottenham's. Leicester's only opened 3 or 4 years ago, and these places are absolutely next generation. Obviously, I worked at Man U for a bit. Caddington's amazing. I've spent a lot of money on that recently. Finch Farm, I was like first through the door at Finch Farm in, I think it was maybe 2006. That was incredible. And that's gone on again. I went back there the second time. That's gone on to another level, more buildings, more stuff. And as more money comes into football, there is more stuff. And I think, you need to win games to be a successful football club. But that infrastructure of a nice stadium, a nice hospitality, and a very, very good state of the art training ground. That all comes with it. That, and if you want to, attract better players for more money, I think you need that in the armory. I don't think if you want to sign in the 80s a top player for Blackburn and you take him down to Witton Park in amongst all the dog shit, I don't think that's going to be very impressive. So it's I think it's important from a club's point of view, if they can afford it,
mhm.
to invest money on a very, very good training ground. And I think it's wise. You're telling me that Wrexham are doing that. I think that's a very wise move.
Yeah, it's possible that it's even delayed because they want to go too big. The initial plans and ideas that they were talking about were really expansive. Now, of course, you can do phase one, two, three, but you have to get the amount of land you require if you want something to be that big. So I think that's
I
delaying
think
it.
my advice, having been done the Everton thing, we went from Little Belfield in the city, been there for 50, 60 years, beautiful training ground, atmospheric, where the great 80s, 81 team with um, Graham Sharp and all Kevin Ratcliffe, they all trained there. Howard Kendall's great team that won the league. We didn't want to leave there. And I know when I spoke to people at Man U, they didn't want to leave the cliff. It was home, it was comfortable. But when you get to the new place, you do all of a sudden enjoy the fact there's a swimming pool. I'm in the massive medical room. I look through window on my left. There's a massive state of the art gym. I look through the window on the other side. There's a fantastic swimming complex. But interestingly, when we moved from little old Belfield to fantastic state of the art, a little bit sterile Finch Farm, it seemed massive. And there were loads of offices and that. I had my own big office, obviously, and David had a massive office at the front, and there were a few offices. When I went back to work in the academy 6 or 7 years later, already as football had grown exponentially, there wasn't enough room. There wasn't enough capacity for players to get changed. The squads got bigger. The medical room was too small. The pool was too small. There weren't enough offices. So everything got extended out again. So I think the moral there is I don't think you can go too big,
Mm.
because as football grows exponentially, and it's great now that a lot of the professional ladies team go to the men's training ground and work there as well. That's what happened at Everton when I went back. So it's only getting bigger, the game. There seems to be no end to the amount of subs, staff,
Mm.
players, under fours, under fives, under six, under sevens, men's, women's. There seems to be no end. It's growing exponentially. So I think it would be a mistake to not go big.
Mm.
Parkinson's law. It that states
Yeah.
that whatever you build eventually will become maximally full. Build a new motorway. Wow, it's great. There's so much space. Then after 3 months, that motorway is full. And I think we're seeing that in football. So I would advise anybody, if you can afford to, don't undercut it.
Mm.
You're better to have more space and not need it than be chronically short of space that you can't ever get.
Yeah, well, they have kind of done development at Darwood College for the younger groups, so that's a good start. Is to maybe section off the youngest teams, give them their own training space, and then as they
Yeah,
build, bring in the older academy and first team and women's team, probably in when they get it all sorted in the future. So
yeah,
it's looking rosy, but all these things do take time. We'll get there.
yes. And we wanted that stand to be knocked down after the Charlton game and up for the first game of the season.
Yeah,
That's impossible. It can't happen.
yeah,
But we've got this great fan base now, and now we can't let them all in because we could get 20,000 on, and it is
yeah.
frustrating. But nobody can knock down a stand and build another one within 3 or 4 months, can they? So unfortunately, whilst everything's going in a great upward trajectory, there is got to be that understanding that things do take a little bit of time.
Yeah, especially with the red tape in the UK. Not the easiest to get stuff past.
You've got to make sure the bats are okay and the frogs can cross the road and stuff like that. But it's not a simple process. It takes
Yeah.
time, and the only thing is, unfortunately, time does go on. I'm sat here at 67 now, and we're all growing older. So unfortunately, I can vouch for the fact that time does go on, and eventually they'll have the ground done. They'll have the new training ground, and hopefully they'll be tilting for the Premier League. So we'll get there, I guess.
Okay. If I was to put you on the spot here, try and rate these four items in importance for players. Now, I know every player, it's individual for their own situation, but just as a general rule, considering these four: money, location, team position, as in due for promotion, relegation, standard, or your fancy training centre, which would you rate in order there? Top to
Right,
bottom, kind of.
me personally, when I played, there wasn't money,
Hmm.
so there weren't a case of getting A here and A squared there. It was A or A plus another £20 a week, so there was none of that. For me, it's been in a good team. That's the most important. Location is important as well. I left Birmingham to go to Blackburn. It was tough when you're only 19 years of age. That'd be the second one. Training facilities and money. No, that's not me. That's not money. I knew when I started being a physio at Halifax Town in '91. I knew if I worked hard, I was the only one of the only physios who was an ex-professional footballer. I
Mm.
knew if I worked hard, I would work at the top of the Premier League, and then if you're there, the money will always come. So I would concentrate on being in a good team. I think location is quite important to have a settled home life. I think training ground is less of secondary importance in terms of that stuff. And for me, money wasn't important because if you do all the other things right, then in a game like professional football, the money has to come. And I started as a physio at Halifax Town on £200 a week. And it was quite a long way from home. And it was 7 days a week, no days off for 4 years, even in the summer. But I knew. And then I went to Preston and they climbed and climbed and climbed. Then I went to Everton. And I knew if I worked and worked and worked, one day I'd be at the top. And then when you're head of medical at a top Premier League club, then you're very well paid.
Mm.
So it's concentrate on the work, concentrate on the team, possession, the position of the team, how good they are. I wouldn't go for short-term stuff. Well, look, I don't want to go there. They're not very good, but I'm going to get more than I'm going to get here. I wouldn't do like that. But I'm talking from somebody who, in those days when I played, there was nothing between the teams money-wise.
Mm.
I couldn't leave Blackburn and go to Bolton and get loads more
Yeah.
money. I could maybe leave Blackburn and go to Bolton and get another £5 a week. So that didn't really come into it. But I've always kept them principles, and I think that's the right way to do it. I think if you're only just chasing the money, look, I've lived a long time, mate. I've worked with a lot of very, very wealthy people. If I've learned one thing in life, money doesn't make you happy. Okay, if you've got no money, that is a desperately
Yeah.
bad situation. But there's a relative amount of money you need to fulfill all your desires and that, like, And as I say, I've seen lots of people with lots and lots of money who are very, very unhappy. I've seen lots of poor people with no money who are equally unhappy. I'm not. I'm not.
Of
I'm
course.
not trying to patronize. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to patronize working class people who haven't got loads of dough. I get all that. People get short of money and that, but there's only a certain amount of money you need to be perfectly fulfilled and that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't ever be chasing the money. If I got offered two jobs now as a physio in football, and I didn't really fancy job A, but it's double the money, I wouldn't take that job.
Do you get the impression that younger players, when they're coming through in the more modern age, are they chasing the money, or are they on the understanding that they're looking for the best fit for the future? Because agents and all of
It's
this whispering in the ear.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say that negative, they're only interested in money, but it's a much bigger factor because there's so much more of it.
Mm,
And if you're a brilliant, I don't know, 18-year-old player, just signed pro on the top clubs, you're going to get a very, very nice wage. But if you don't get, if you're on a 3 or 4 year contract, but you're not really getting nowhere near the team, and it's probably, 21, 22, it's now passed you by, but you're on a fabulous wage, it's very difficult to drop down to a League One club
mm,
so you can play every week on a tenth of the wages. So the scales are so big now that inevitably the money side of things does come into it, which it never did in my day.
yeah.
So the answer to your question, I think yes, probably so. Chasing the money's a bad term,
Yeah.
but if you're at a big club, not really getting in, but you're on a fabulous wage,
Mm.
it's going to be very hard to drop down a division for regular football on a tenth of the wage, or well, let's be realistic, not a tenth of the wage, but a quarter of the wage. So I get that. I don't think I would have done that. So we don't want to be chasing money, but there's got to be common sense applied as well.
Yeah, just kind of an example of that is the rumor was Arthur Okonkwo, when we had him on loan he was under Arsenal, and it's believed he was on about 18,000 a week, and then he came to us officially, and again, rumor was it was about 10,000. But that's a young guy, start of his career, came to us. He's been with us now for years. He's leading the line in the championship, so I'm sure he's on pretty decent money now. And good luck to him and more in the future if we keep going with this. So you maybe expect it when you're young and you're with these big academies. But it does surprise me a little bit how some of the older players that we've had have moved out to lower league teams, League One and League Two, and are still willing to play. So that kind of shows the mindset that you would have.
Yeah,
Did they want to go and play? It's
yeah.
not about the money, maybe.
Everybody's different, and maybe it depends on how much money the individual's got, what motivates them. I saw it quite a lot at Everton, where we had like good young professionals, like the likes of Anthony Gordon, Ellie Sims, Josh Mola, good young players, and Everton rated them, and they'd been around the first team, and they're on good money, and then they get a chance to, all right, it's not going to happen permanently here. I've got a chance to go to, I don't know, a championship club, but they know that the money's less, so it's a difficult decision, and I think if you're not going to leave for a fraction of what you're on,
Mm,
but if you're going to go and you're going to get pretty near up to what you're on, plus bonus, plus appearance money
yeah.
that you're not going to get at your club you're at now, it will measure out and that, like, the agents obviously will advise the players, and agents are okay. There's nothing wrong with agents. I never had an agent when I was a player, and I never got beyond £300 a week. So my generation of players, and I played every week for Blackburn at the top end of the Championship, and we didn't get well paid. We got poorly paid, really, especially in the terms of footballers nowadays. There was no agents there. There was no freedom of contract, so you couldn't leave the club anyway.
Hmm.
But I would say, like, yes, no, I don't really know.
Yeah,
Everybody's different. Everybody's different. I would not want to stay at a club when I'm not playing. I'd rather earn less money, but it depends what less money is.
yeah.
If less money is not enough to live on, you can't go. So
I think in all the top
it's
five divisions now,
yeah,
it's enough to live on, really, isn't it?
you would hope so,
Yeah.
mate. You would hope so.
Okay. Pivoting a little bit then to some of your experience as a physio, some injuries in the game. Can I ask you, what is one of the worst injuries you've had to deal with from a player? What got injured?
The, Yeah, the worst injuries I've ran onto the pitch to are like the dramatic open fracture of the shin, where there's blood and the bone sticking through. They're not good to see. But surgery now, and the
Yeah,
orthopedics are just so good. There's very little keeps you out of an injury. I ran on. It's not nice to run onto a neck injury or an unconscious player.
yeah.
That's next level. Obviously, it's bad if somebody's broke the leg, but it's a broken leg.
Mm,
If somebody's lying on the pitch not breathing, we had a situation when I was at Everton. We played, I think it was Fiorentina in the Europa League. And Mikel Arteta, I've just watched him doing his press conference. They've just beat Spurs, as you know. So Mikel he got knocked out. Then he had a post-concussive fit, which obviously I'm not revealing anything confidential because that
mm,
was seen by everybody watching it on the
yeah,
television. That's not nice to handle.
yeah,
And whether you like it or not, it does run through your mind all the time when you're addressing a player. Wow, I'm on live TV here. Make sure he survives. So there's always that narrative as well, when you're in the Premier League. I mean, now nearly every game's on the telly anyway, but back then when I started at Everton, the Premier League games were on. There weren't much on below that, but I was always aware. But yeah, they're the ones you don't really like when you're running on and the lad's not moving and people are
mm,
beckoning you on quickly and that, and you're going across, you're going through it in your head and that, and it's almighty relief when the player's actually okay and he's breathing and that,
yeah.
so they're the ones. I say it's bad enough if somebody has a broken leg or does a cruciate and that.
Mm,
We had a ruptured Achilles, Yakubu playing for Everton at Spurs, but they are only with a small O orthopedic injuries. The
mm,
scary ones are when the player's not breathing and he's landing on his head, and they're the ones you worry about, because you think, wow, if this guy's not breathing now, all of a sudden it's CPR. Now
mm,
touch wood, I've never had it. I've never had to
yeah.
do that on the pitch anyway. But they're the scary ones. They're the ones that we should be, prepared for, ready for. All the physio are trained to a high standard now. They have to get a special qualification to run on the pitch and that. So pretty much so that if that incredibly rare event happens, they are in good hands.
Yeah, I absolutely wouldn't want to be doing CPR. I had it one time. I am medically trained in first aid myself, and I was the first on scene with a car crash. And I was taking care of one of the guys while the ambulance was coming, and he started to nod and kind of lose consciousness just a little bit. And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a problem here. If he goes, I'm going to have to pull him out and do CPR." But ultimately, he was fine in the end. So yeah, nobody wants to be going that far.
No, no,
Um,
it's not
but
nice.
you mentioned open fracture of the shin there, which has brought something to my mind I wasn't planning on bringing up, which is, what do you think of these little baby shin guards that they're wearing these
Oh,
days?
don't,
And when did that become a
mate,
thing?
mate. If my son puts one of them in, he'll get sent to his bedroom and he'll get the back of his leg slapped. I just saw today in one of the games a lad's got them on, and when I started working over the last couple of years, I mean, it reflects the good thing that players aren't tackling as dangerous now as they used to. They're getting a
Mm.
straight red. Anything over the ball's a straight red. In the 70s and 80s, you would have got your leg broken with a shin pad like that. I saw one the other day. I can't remember what live game it was. It was a bit of orthopedic foam, and it was about probably It wasn't even a shin pad
Wasn't
with
even
the
a shin
hard
pad.
outside and that.
It's a fake shin
I
pad.
Yeah, if I see play, I go mad at them. I go mad. I'm not joking. I hate it. I think it's crazy. And I'm talking of a player. I've had a few bad cuts on my ankles that required stitches and stuff and that. You need good shin pads on. Come on. They're not heavy, are they? Mate, I don't get it. I just don't get it. That's it. I
Okay.
don't get it. And God, if I saw my son with them on, he'd be in trouble, big trouble. I'd go down to JD Sports, I'd buy him a set of cricket pads, and I'd make him wear them. It, it, Mate, there's no defence. They they weigh nothing. They're
Yeah.
not obtrusive.
Yeah.
They're light. Why would you not essentially have any shin pads on? It's crazy.
Okay. With regards to injuries in the modern game, then, are there more injuries in the modern game, or is it just a function of we're aware of all the injuries because of better record keeping? Um,
There's a bit of everything, right?
mhm.
So, for example, there's many more players now. Every club now has a squad of 25 more or less, don't they? So
Yeah.
there's probably 4 or 5 thousand professional footballers. We get much more information about them as well. I've read two reports. One said there's fewer injuries nowadays, and one said there's more injuries.
Mm.
So, as I think it was Mark Twain famously said, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. So,
Yeah.
I don't really know the answer whether there's more injuries or not. They're reported more, there's more media coverage, more social media, so we talk about it more. And there's no doubt about it. When I played for Blackburn in the early 80s, I was on a couple of £100 a week, which was probably the equivalent of maybe 50 grand a year now. So decent, but nothing like the players earn today. If I played and I got my 25 quid appearance money and £50 a point, only 2 points for winning them days, then I'm getting up to a doctor's wage. So I'm telling you, mate, I don't miss games. I played every game for 3 years for Blackburn. And my generation of players, maybe the game was slow, get away with it more,
Mm.
they would play a lot more with injuries that the players won't play with nowadays. That's not a criticism of modern players. The squad's bigger. There's a more
Hmm.
careful approach. The players are worth more. So there's an element of that. So there'll be players missing this weekend in the Premier League Championship that would certainly in my day, when you needed your 25 quid appearance money, would have played and been okay with that injury. So it's a combination of everything. The game's faster, I guess. But I say I've not really seen it. I've seen it from both sides. I've seen people say there's more, there's less. So it's hard to say really. Excuse me.
Yeah. Um, okay. With the pressure and scheduling kind of keeping along the same lines, then, is the 90-hour window between games enough? Is it putting too much pressure on players? We recently had a match on Monday and a Friday, I think, or Tuesday and a Friday. Because we were on TV. What's your opinion on that? Are we putting matches too close together?
So the last time I read the science, it takes 48 hours to recover from a game. So scientifically speaking, I don't think it is.
Okay.
Mentally, if you're playing now for a club under pressure, live TV, it's mentally tiring the game. So there could be that angle too. But don't forget, the squads are so much bigger. We can use 5 subs now, can't we, out of
Hmm.
9 players? So when I played, it was Saturday, Tuesday, the same 11 every single week, ankle deep in mud, ball weighed a ton, no issues. I suspect that maybe we've put into people's minds now that you're tired. It's tired. How you feeling today? I'm fine. Well, you look tired. You look tired. How you feeling now? I'm okay. Yeah, but you played Saturday, you played Tuesday, you played 94. You were in 11K. How you feeling now? Well, come to think of it, I do feel a bit tired. We can suggest into people's minds. I watch a lot of tennis. Those guys, they play every day.
Hmm.
The Tour de France, they'll cycle like maniacs for 7 days, have a day off, 7 days, have a day off, 7 days. So I don't buy it that playing a game of football that I've played hundreds and hundreds of is the ultimate test of physical endurance. So I'm not buying that, mate. I honestly believe you can laugh, I don't care. I could play every other day for through the season. The basketball players play 82 games, and
Hmm.
then if they get in the playoffs, there's another 20. So I don't think we're overdoing it by playing Tuesday and Friday.
If you had a Tuesday and Friday, does that likely mean that either one of the training sessions might be removed or they would become light training sessions, which kind of would assist with that?
Yeah, typically you play Tuesday night, you'd be in Wednesday, you just do recovery in the pool on the bikes and that. Thursday you'd be a super light, do your free kicks, and then report for game Friday. So no matter how many games you have, the training's always tailored around the games. So it's looked at carefully. I mean, when I played, nowadays you play Saturday, off Sunday, super light Monday, then train Tuesday. That didn't happen in my day. There was no 2 day recovery.
Mm,
Played Saturday, had loads of beer after the game and on Sunday, went in Monday, trained hard Tuesday, and I don't remember loads of people being fatigued or injured or stuff. We were fine. I felt fine. So my lived experience, Dan, and I can't do anything about it, it's my lived experience,
mhm.
is that I could play and train really hard. And we used to like a drink in those days. That was the culture of it.
Yeah.
And I'd play in the mud Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday. There was no thoughts of rotation. He needs a rest and that. And we'd finish, if there's no midweek game, we'd finish every Tuesday session with loads and loads of long, hard running. So it was quite a tough school, but again, we were all okay. We didn't know anything else. We weren't being told that you're fatigued, fill in a form, fill in a form. Mark yourself asleep, muscle tiredness. No, you're playing Saturday and you're playing Tuesday and you're playing Saturday and you're playing Tuesday. And there's a frost coming, so it's going to be rock hard, the pitch as well. So it was a completely different environment. And that's not trying to be
Mhm.
like the Yorkshireman sketch out of Monty Python, like, but it was different. And I bet in the 50s and 60s it was different again. So I do get it. I'm not denying the game's quicker and that. But what you know is what you know. And my lived experience is that I played Saturday, Tuesday. We trained hard in mud every day, and there was no thought of resting, fatigue. Those words weren't used. There was
Mm.
no understanding, comprehending, allowing that phrase. They look tired. They look tired. You hear it now, like 20 minutes into the game. They're a bit leggy. They didn't. They flew back 3 days ago from I don't know,
New Zealand.
somewhere yeah, Kazakhstan. It's a 5 hour flight. I'm
Mm.
thinking I've been on them flights, mate. Business class.
Yeah.
You're asleep all the time. So I understand the science and
Mm.
I do get it, but again, I can't speak only of my lived experience. So, and similarly, when people say to me, nutrition, 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 I have to say that I'm in a minority because there was none in my day as a player. And I felt amazing. I felt amazing in the running. I felt amazing in the games. I felt amazing on Monday morning. And I wasn't tired. I didn't feel tired. I didn't allow myself to be tired. So we've got to be careful that we don't put these seeds into players. You're tired now. Come on. Oh no,
Mm.
Tuesday, Friday. Oh no, no, we can't. And you look at a lot of teams who had a couple of games in a couple of days, and then they go and win then the impossible ask, the third game. Oh God, it's 12 o'clock kickoff, but then they win the game.
Mm.
So a lot of it, as I say, I can't go against what I
Mm.
know to be my lived experience, even though I'm in a minority and I might be wrong.
The narrative is out there that there's too much games and too much pressure on the players. But do you think that it actually is coming from the players, or is it coming from other third parties that are trying to push that narrative? Are players actually saying
I
this in your experience?
Yes, a little. If you look at when I played, the season finished, you played your 46, 50 games, you had a good cup run, 55 games, you're done 7th of May, and then we'll see you all on the 14th of July. Go away and have 8, 10 weeks of just doing nothing and that.
Yeah,
But where I sympathise very much so is like, for example, Chelsea, they finished the season, then they were in that cup all through the summer in
yeah,
America. And I think that is now becoming too much. And I only played at championship level mainly, so there was no live TV, there was no social media. So any external pressure on me was light. It seemed a lot at the time. It was crumbling for me,
mm,
but it was super light. So I don't think it's the physical stuff. It's the mental stuff as well. It's the pressure. And if you've got a massive game on a Tuesday and a massive game on a Friday, they're both live. They're both 6-pointers. Chelsea have they got Barcelona, and then I don't know, Arsenal maybe in the next 5 or 6 days. I think it's more the mental and emotional side of it more so than the physical, because we know that the tennis players play every other day during
Mm,
Wimbledon, and we know the cyclists cycle to exhaustion, a lot of them every day. So we know that physically it can be done, but
mm,
I do think with football, it's the emotional and mental. And I think if I played nowadays with all the scrutiny, I think I'd be able to play maybe one game a month if I was lucky. It'd take me through to recover. And especially on social media, there's no escaping. If you've had a bad game, it's all over social media that you're rubbish. So I think the mental and
mm.
emotional fatigue is much, much more than I ever experienced, that's for sure.
Okay. So you kind of mentioned the summer there, that they're not getting the summer breaks. And recently, some of our players did say that they're basically only taking a 2 week complete rest break in a summer. And then they're even back to exercising throughout the summer. They're wearing their fitness bands and trackers. And that data is coming back to the Wrexham physios so that they know what you've been doing over the summer. And it almost seems like it's somewhat expected for players to do it. So you're not kind of happy with that bit. But if I gave you the power to change anything around the game to make it potentially easier or better for injuries or any other aspect, what would you do? Would you add more players, um, more substitutions, anything like that? What would you like to change?
Well, first, getting back to that, the players, when I was a player, you went away for the close season
Mm,
and relaxed, gained weight if you wanted to. There was no thought of training because pre season is to get you fit.
mm,
But it's so intense now, the pressure's so high. Players are training now to be the best condition for day one of pre season, which is doesn't make sense. The stuff that all the clubs do now, sending the players away, it's reasonable to maintain a level of fitness. So what the Wrexham guys do, and every club I've worked at now, when Oliver's at Rotherham, they send you away with some maintenance work.
mm,
They're not flogging you during the summer. Uh, the Wrexham guys will be really good, and they'll let the guys have a couple of weeks of doing nothing. Then they'll give them some relatively light maintenance programs. So when they come back, they're kind of nearly there. They've not got a lot. When I was a player at Birmingham, players were off for like 11 weeks. Players come back a stone or two overweight. We used to laugh at them getting weighed in. And then it was cross country, day after day after day to get them back in shape. But the players come back in good shape now.
mm,
What I would do to change anything, there's a few things like we're playing now. The games are 100 minutes, aren't they now? The average game's 100 minutes. I'd chisel that back to basic 90. Um, would I have more subs? No. What annoys me, and I can speak now, I'm 67, and I can say what I want. I've been in football 50 years. A lot of what I think and say, I'm in a minority, but it is my lived experience. I think the warm ups, and it's every club, I think the warm ups are too much, too far. If you're concerned about players being fatigued, don't give them those long warm ups and all the sprints and that little game of football they play and the closing down and the crossing and the finishing. Just let them warm themselves up, and that let everybody warm themselves up differently. So that's what I think. The every game I watched on the television now, 8 minutes, another 8 minutes. So a game now is 100 minutes, and so that's added a lot, I think, because if there is going to be fatigue, it's going to be manifested in the last 10 minutes of a game. So in the last 10, you are maybe tiring. I never used to, but some of the Bond players are starting to tire now in the last 10 minutes, last 5, then stick another 10 minutes on top. I think that is probably a little bit much. And I think we should trim that down. All the years I played, there was none of that.
mm.
Everyone was okay. There was none of that. I get it, want the ball in play more often. I get all that. But, again, we're going up to the 100 minutes. I really don't like having 5 subs out of 9. I think it's unnecessary. I think what we see now in the last 15 minutes, the game's ruined now. They're bringing 3 on, they're bringing 4 on, they're bringing 3 on. Your average centre forward now is never going to play more than 70 minutes in a game in his life anymore.
Mm,
So I don't like that. I played in an era where there was one sub, one sub. Then it went to 2 subs in probably 1987, 88. Then it went to 3. Now it's 5. I think it's too much. It favours the big clubs, obviously, with all the players, doesn't it? So clubs like who've got 20 world-class players, it favours them
Mm.
over clubs who've maybe,
Can only
got
manage the first
eight,
11.
eight,
Mm.
eight or nine world-class players.
Yeah.
So it favours them. So I really don't like that. I think we should go back to 5 subs and only 3 can go on. I think that's the best way. And I think we should stop all this 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes adding on, because we've had enough by then. And as I say, all these subs coming on in the last 15 minutes, and like each team putting on a 3 and then a 3, it's taking the linesman ages to put all the numbers into the box. And it just totally kills what should be the most exciting end-to-end part of the game, the last 10 or 15
Mm.
minutes. It's like a pre-season friendly, just punctuated with substitutions.
Yeah.
And while I'm on the subject, why do we have to run all the subs up and down the pitch after the game? That don't make sense. Listen, mate, Paddy, every club, every club do. While I'm on, I might as well sound like an old idiot, and I'm in a minority, but I have my views and it's my lived experience. So we'll play a game, and we've got all these games now that are very tiring. So it's gone okay. Player B, who we've rested today, he's only gone on for 15 minutes. That's worked out really well. So we've got another big game in 3 days, you keep telling me, don't you? So let's get him on the pitch now, make him run up and down as fast as he can for 10 minutes. So I don't get that. I've seen clubs, Paddy, now away teams turning up with weights and leg weights and stuff. And I've seen players on the side of the pitch who didn't get on doing Nordics and squats after they've done the running. And I just shake my head and I just don't get any of that, mate. So let's add it on time, less sub breaks, and none of this running after the game. And let's cut the warm up down, for God's sake.
Okay.
That's it, mate.
Right.
That's it.
Well, this one might be an interesting add-on then. Okay. Are footballers potentially their own worst enemy? Do they push themselves and each other too far? Because there is the idea of iron sharpens iron, push each other to be the best. Recently, there was a podcast with the Wrexham physio, and they were speaking about the players and everything they do there. And one of the things that came up was a leaderboard they use, or that is used by the players, to see who is the best and strongest at doing the hamstring exercises. And then recently we had a hamstring pop on Kabore, our loan from Man City, while he was out on international duty. And it just brought up the discussion. Are they being pushed too hard by physios? Are they pushing themselves too hard? You know, are they not looking after themselves in the correct way because of egos and this sort of stuff?
No, because what you're describing is like, for example, the Nordic thing. It's been
Yeah.
proven that if you have a good score on the Nordics, you will minimise hamstring injuries. So doing Nordic exercises is common practice at every single club I've worked at in the last 10 years. So the Wrexham guys are doing a good job making the hamstring strong. Hamstring injuries will never ever be eradicated. They can be minimised. One of the leading causes is lack of strength in your hamstring. So it would make sense that all the players do Nordics. I've never, ever, ever seen a player get injured doing a Nordic or a hamstring strengthening. So they're safe. So there's no dangers there. Players by nature are competitive.
Mhm.
When I played for Preston, there was a bench press stack that I could do and few others could do. And then we'd add another weight, and then I couldn't do that, but he could. So I worked hard to make sure I could be the strongest at bench presses. You're always going to get that with competitive people. But I've never seen an incident where I've thought, wow, steady on, someone's going to get hurt here. Never. And you've always got good medical people about, like the guys at Wrexham are very, very good. I know that for a fact. And you've always got them looking at it, mediating it. So I don't think there'll be any situation at any club where the physios are egging people on into dangerous stuff. And those things that you describe, Nordics and hamstring strengthening, that's accepted throughout the world of sports medicine, that is good practice.
Good. Nice to hear. Okay. Along with the physical side of injuries and being out of the squad for periods of time in order to fix these problems. Obviously, Kabore is out till January approximately, but he will go back to his home club to do that physio. It kind of brought to mind how are we looking after the players' mental side of it. So, can you give us a bit of an insight as to what happens when a player is out for, let's say, 3 months to do rehab? Are they rehabbing on their own the whole time? Once they get through the initial phases, are they at training sessions watching, being around all the boys, feeling like part of the team? Or, how does all of that work?
So, as a physio myself, if somebody gets a long-term injury, look, if you've got a minor strain of a couple of fibres, that's football, pal. If you've got a long-term injury that could significantly impact on your future, your earning potential, then it's very important that we tune into their mental requirements. There's a lot of pressure on players. We've all agreed with that today. In 30 years as a physio, I was aware of zero mental health issues. In the last 2 years, I've been involved in three significant ones. So there is a lot more pressure, and people's mental health is coming under kind of sustained pressure. I've seen that. Obviously, we all accept that with modern living for a variety of reasons. Good physios, and nowadays, throughout the where I've worked, I've always worked with another physio. I can't remember in the last few years seeing a bad physio. I know the guys at Wrexham are very, very good physios and good people. And as part of their day-to-day diligence, will be to look at that player, not the lad with the 2 week sprained ankle,
Mhm.
but those lads who've been out a long time. And that I would always say to him, "You're all right. That's all. You're okay. You know what I mean? You're okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Right." But I would try and mediate stuff. So if we had a player who'd done his cruciate and was going to be out for 9 months, it is now, I would, in the early days, get him in every other day to check it. Then we'd go to a stage where he'd start to do swimming. I'd get him in, and we'd have 4 days of massive swimming races till we were both, I could hardly breathe with exhaustion. Then I let him have 4 days off. Then we come back in. We'd have 4 days of cycling in the gym till we were exhausted. Then I let him have 4 days off. So I think good physio is understand that it's important. By the same degree, you don't want to alienate or push players away. You have to get a feel for it. If somebody's going to be out and you say, right, go home and don't come back 4 weeks, that could be equally as bad. So it's knowing your players and it's striking the balance. You always want to include injured players in everything, in and around everything, if there's a team meeting and stuff and that. Sometimes it's not practical.
Mhm.
Obviously, the lads went to Ipswich on Friday. The injured players didn't go, did they?
Mm.
That's not practical. But again, good physios like you've got at Wrexham will think of all those things and bring it all in. And obviously, Andy Can had a really bad injury, and I'm sure, every club I've worked at, we discuss that. Is he okay? And I'm sure they've done that. And it's the whole person, isn't it? Not just the injury. So
Mm.
when I was a young player, not so. It was not great to be injured. It was unpleasant. You were kind of ostracised from the group and that. Not now. We've come a hell of a long way in the last 10 years for sure. Looking after the mental health, the pastoral care. I always look at the whole player, not just the sprained ankle. So, and I know the Wrexham lads are really good at that.
So it would obviously be very much an individual thing to the player. Would some players particularly like to have their recovery sessions around the same time that the boys will be around the grounds doing their training, whereas others might not want to be doing it at the same time, don't want the other players seeing them injured while they're doing their recovery sessions, or
Yeah, the vast majority of players want to be around the fit players to just be around the club at the normal working hours. Sometimes you get players had injury after injury after injury, and they're really, really, really down, or they're not in the picture at the club in terms of if they get fit anyway, they're not going to be in the team. Then we would discuss it, and they say, look, they might say to me, Baz, I hate it here. I don't want to be here. I'm injured again. Can you get me in later? I'll say, yeah, I'll tell you what, look, let's meet at 3 o'clock and I'll take them out separate and that. But that's very unusual.
mm,
Most of the time, the players want to be in for breakfast in and around the players. They want to be part of it.
yeah, that's great. So Then I was wondering if we can have a look at some of the stories from your books, or just give people a flavour of the books that you have promoted and, written yourself.
Right, I'm really proud, Paddy. I've written 3 books, and when I was writing the first book, people were saying to me, only 1% of manuscripts get published. But I believed in that book so much, and I got it published. And then the second book and the third book. So I was in that 1%, I guess. So I've had 3 books published. I'm really proud of them. I wrote every word myself, none are ghost written. Um, the first book's about me as a young player, having no confidence at Birmingham. It's dark, it's a difficult read, although it's painfully funny. My journey goes through my playing career at Blackburn, my physio career. It ends up when I'm head of medical at Everton and we've just got to the cup final against Chelsea. 35 years. It's about confidence, though, and confidence in life, and it touches everybody in every job. So it has an extra layer. My second book starts in 2010, The Smell of Football 2, the sequel, and that's about growing old in a young man's sport. It's 11 years and 10 teams I worked for in those 11 years, including Forest and Man United and the England teams. And it's about growing old in a young man's sport and feeling distant and a bit alienated. But then at the end, just realising, no, they can't have what you've got. They may have letters, more letters. They may have the laptops and the fancy new stuff, but they'll never have done 1,200 games and played 450 games and have 35 years experience. So that's the journey of the second book. The third book, which I wasn't going to bother with, I worked at Accrington and I was writing a little bit of a diary of day-to-day stuff because people are fascinated with the minutiae of the day-to-day stuff. And we had a tough time. We didn't win many games. It was great during the week, but really tough at the weekends and that. Something happened towards the end that made my position untenable there. It was unbelievable what actually happened in the last few days. When I left, I'd done 100 days and I made a little note every day. So I thought this would make a great diary of 100 days in football. And it is that juxtaposition about the horrors of getting done in the last minute on a Saturday and what it's like in the dressing room after no wins in 8, which was the situation. And then the pressure of that ninth game against the bottom team, the one team below you, and that. But it's like, as I say, it's juxtaposed against that almost calmness of Monday to Tuesday and the mundaneness of life at a football club that I write about in detail that people don't see. So the third book, my son says the first book's the best. My eldest daughter said the second book's the best. My younger daughter said the third book's the best. So that makes me really glad, Paddy,
Yeah.
because I didn't want the second and third books to be rubbish versions of the first,
Mm,
and they all stand alone. They're all part of the Smell of Football trilogy, but they're all very, very different,
mm.
but the same at the same time, if that could ever possibly be true.
Yeah.
So that's it. And the third book's doing great. It's getting some amazing reviews, it's getting 5-star reviews all along the board from Amazon and Waterstones and that. So I'm really proud of the 3 of them. Before you ask, you don't make any money unless you're J.K. Rowling. If I'd have spent if I'd have spent the mate, if I'd have spent the equivalent amount of time walking the neighbours' dogs like people do nowadays as a living, if I'd have spent the equivalent, I'd have made more money. But there's nothing like going into Waterstones in central London, into the autobiographies, and seeing a whole table just with your book on. And there's nothing like sitting on the beach in Spain and hearing laughter and seeing somebody reading your book. And there's nothing like that. And there's nothing like seeing a great review from the Daily Mail, or I was live on Talksport Friday talking about it. There's nothing like that. So it's given me a lot of pride, all 3 books.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, although they're set up as volume one, two, and three, are they all completely independent? I know the third one definitely sounds like it's completely independent, but for the first two, could you pick out just the second one, or would that one be more naturally as a one, two?
Yeah, you're better buying book 1 and then book 2. I think Waterstones and Amazon have got them. Book three's just come out, so there's many more copies of book 3 around. Like book 3 stands alone, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people have just read book 2 and then read book 1 afterwards.
Hmm.
They are kind of, it's me, so book 2 starts with book 1 finishes, but you could just read book 2. Because it's got its own story and it's got its own layering, and the layering is about growing old. the theme of having no confidence, I throw that off at the end of the first book and I emerge unscathed and a different person. Then I go into my next kind of meltdown, which is about growing old in a young man's sport. And that comes to an end in the Caribbean on a kind of road to Damascus situation, looking at the volcano. So, no, mate, it's great to write 3 books. It's great. And when I was on Talksport on Friday, Hawksby and Jacobs, they said it, and it's Mick Rathbone, the author Mick Rathbone. And I think I said, "Oh wow, say that again." But I'm not an author. I'm I'm a I'm a physio who's written 3 books. I'm not an author.
Yeah.
That's what I am. A physio who's written 3 books.
Yeah, I must admit the third book does really intrigue me, getting into the daily details of a physio. I know we see little bits of it on the Welcome to Wrexham documentary here and there, but and other videos they put out, but definitely reading all of it would be very interesting. As I said, though, we do have an awful lot of international fans who may be interested in the books. What would be the best way for them to get it?
I think Amazon and Waterstones online.
Online. Okay.
A friend of mine who's at Halifax many years ago, he emailed me or contacted me. He lives in Melbourne, and he wanted me to send him one, but I said just get it online, and he ordered it from Amazon or Waterstones and got it like
Okay.
so.
Great. Well, I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time. I hope I didn't take up too much of it. I know for
I
go ahead.
I really enjoyed it. It was great.
Yeah, I know for sure our viewers on the channel will really enjoy this because it's such a hot topic among our community at the moment because we do have quite a few players out injured. This last weekend we had 3 starting 11 players who were down, and Ollie wasn't back this week either. Phil said he
No.
has another injury. I hope that's not too long before we'll see him back.
No. I've just made him his tea. His mum's made him his tea, and he's not far away. But that's football.
Yeah,
Every player's career, um, it's up and it's down. And Oliver's had that, and it's made him tough. And he went to Rotherham, promotion, won the Papa Johns. Then they stayed up the next year. Then they only won 5 games the next year. Then he went to Wrexham. It was amazing last year, and now he's seen the other side of the coin. But it's like anything else, mate. You can't have a rainbow without the rain, and Oliver knows that. And to all the injured players that I've ever dealt with, we tell them that, we explain that to them. Just think how good you will feel when you're back. Just think how much you will enjoy your career. Now you don't take it so much for granted, maybe after a long-term injury where you maybe think you're invulnerable, invincible. So we try as a family and as an industry to paint the positives. And you know what, Paddy, at the end of the day, they are first world problems,
yeah.
the minor muscle strains and stuff like that. And we always try and give a healthy perspective on that. And I think it works well. And, we are blessed to work in football. We're so lucky to be involved in football and that. So I always concentrate on the positives and that. And it's a big thing in the medical room, they're with me for a short period of time and they're going to be okay. I always joke at every club, I've never lost a patient yet, and you ain't going to be the first, mate. And I've never lost a patient, and I probably won't work at a club again, and I never will. Like so, we try and we care, we put energy into them, we empathise and that, but we keep it in perspective as well. It's just a couple of fibres of a muscle. Look around in the world, see what's going on, mate, and let's not go too low with this one, And I think in the profession now we're quite good at that. So I think the physio profession's in a good way. Every club I've worked at recently, and that's 11 in the last 3 years, I've got outstanding physios and that. I know the guys at Wrexham, I know they're outstanding. So Wrexham are very lucky there. Players get injured. I had 6 years, 7 years at Everton where we had very few injuries, and I was considered to be the messiah. And then in the eighth year, Paddy, the eighth year, we got loads of injuries, and I never injured them. I never, I promise you, mate, I never injured them. We just got loads of injuries. And one day, we played AEK Athens away in Athens, obviously, and it was a Thursday night Europa League game. And on the afternoon, me and the Dot walked from the hotel up to the Acropolis, the Parthenon, and a load of Everton fans there, and they turned on us and they said, "Hey, you two, get back to the effing hotel. Too many injuries." you should be looking after the injured players and that. So that's what it's like. And I never injured them, and it's just the nature of the game, mate.
Okay.
Players get injured.
And on that bombshell, we will end it there. Thank you very much for everything you did, and it's
My
a great
pleasure, mate.
interview. Take care.
Thanks, mate.